Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Welcome to the Digital
Hello,
Diary.
Tim.
Hello. Great to see you all.
Great to be here.
Thank you.
Shall we start with some introductions?
Nah, let's just crack on.
Yeah, I know all of you guys. I don't need to be introduced to any of you.
Everybody knows us now, don't they?
Fair to say everyone's had a busy week, by any chance?
Oh my gosh, hasn't it been?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
So
lead
Eric,
away,
Eric,
Captain
who
Tim.
did that painting behind your head? It's amazing.
Thank you so much. Yeah, this is we've just moved house this week. Hi everyone, I'm Eric from Crux, co-founder of Crux, partner of DLA Ignite with these guys. So one of my little sideline hobbies is we just moved house this week from a kind of small apartment that we own, and we've rented a house out in the country, and it's been really good because we've managed to get all of possessions back in from storage and stuff like that. My hobby is creating abstract art. It's a thing that I like to do. And this is an original Doyle that my wife said should go in my office. And
That's a Doyle?
Sure. That's a Doyle. That's a Doyle.
It's really nice.
So, I
You
know
are
Ask him about the
Renaissance
edges.
man.
Ask him about the corners and the edges.
So I haven't completed this one. I haven't finished it. This is unfinished. But if anyone wants to have a little look, just for fun, and don't be critical. Well, you can be critical because I'm very weirded by this because I've done about 100 pieces, all big pieces, and I've never sold one because the value.
That's not true, because I was at Sotheby's a couple of weeks ago, and I saw there was a bidding frenzy on one of yours, Eric.
Well, yeah, I don't like to talk about it. I don't like to talk about that or my charity work. but I also so the value for this is purely intrinsic. This is like meditation for me. So I realize that this splits the crowd. I remember even showing, like, some of my best friends went onto my Instagram page, which is Who'da Thunk Pictures. Who'da Thunk Pictures is the brand, and they were like, "Yeah, what does that all mean?" I don't see any faces or landscapes.
It wasn't
or anything.
like the Haywain or
no, unfortunately not. That stuff doesn't. It's the same with music and art. I have a bit of an avant-garde perspective, and so yeah, it's been nice to get a hold of things and get things back around and get some pictures that, it's funny finding the box of pictures. And yeah, the removal guys were like lifting these pieces of artwork, and you could just see their eyebrows raised, like, do you want to keep this, or does this go to the trash? Because clearly your baby's just been messing about with paint on a canvas. We just take these to the local refuse tip? No, they're prized pieces of. Oh, right, okay.
Well, I think I got confused for a long time. My wife was telling me to get some original Doyles, but I heard doily, and I think I got confused.
But actually, anyone who knows anything about abstract art will realize that I'm a bit of a rip-off merchant, because my favorite artist of all time is Gerhard Richter, the German artist, the father of abstract expressionism, who's still alive to this day. One of the only artists of his period who actually realizes the value of his work. It's upside down. Yes, it actually is. It actually is upside down. Gerhard Richter sells pieces for $80–100 million, and they're larger than that, 4 times the size of that. But he uses a technique. He uses 3 of the 3 primary colors, red, yellow, and blue, and 2 monochrome colors, black and white. And that's all Gerhard and I use. So any colors that appear on the canvas appear through the process. And Gerhard Richter's a brilliant documentary on YouTube. Really, if you're into art, it's really nice to watch. He is an extremely wealthy, approaching billionaire artist. Now in his late 70s, early 80s, but still gets up in the morning, puts on a shirt and tie and a tweed suit, has breakfast with his wife, very methodical, walks out of the studio in his house in Berlin, across the little path to the purpose-built studio, and works from 8 till 5 every day on his works in his studio. And he's got.
If you were selling them for $80 or $100 million a time, you would still get up and go to work, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Do you think that perhaps through our social influence and our large network, we could help Eric sell one of those for $8 million, not even 80?
8 million Ugandan dollars, which is about 45 pounds.
Eric, could you mention what the Instagram is again, please? And could you there's a request that's come in.
Right.
And could you do it in a little less Scottish accent?
Right. A little less Scottish accent. Yeah. My. So where is the person from that said that?
They're from the United States.
Right.
Lenwood's from New Jersey, Eric. Not to say
country.
names, but
My
Lenwood's from New Jersey.
Instagram account is Who'da Thunk Pictures. All one word, Who'da Thunk Pictures, and you'll find all of my stuff on there. And
I think the problem is that when you say Who'da Thunk Pictures, no one can understand that. Spell it.
Yeah, that's the problem. I understand.
right,
you.
okay, HOODATHUNK. There's a thunk in there, so Who'da Thunk and pictures on the end. So all one word, Who'da Thunk Pictures. And if you're looking for the account, it should.
Could you stick it in the chat for us?
Hey, Eric, for being such a smart sales and marketing guy, that handle is really effing difficult.
Exactly, deliberately. Who'da Thunk Pictures. There we go.
There's a lot of people following this.
Yeah, there's a lot of people. I'm pretty big in the abstract expressionism world, you know.
It's not just you and your mom.
I've got 1,800 people. It's mostly other artists. We share each other's work, but you'll see it's mostly just the scribble. Someone said it looks like a gorilla has played with its own feces on a canvas. So,
There's Marquis Smith.
the one
I really like that one.
Yeah, which one? Ah, that's a cracker. I love doing that one.
Eric, you realize with the six of us and our collective social influence, you're going to get like 5 new followers today.
That is brilliant. That's a drop the mic. That just caught me perfectly.
Another one I like.
Oh gosh.
Up to 5 new followers.
You're going to have to start doing sending them all over to New Jersey, I think.
Absolutely incredible.
Oh my goodness, I'd love to have a Doyle.
I used to work on the oil rigs, and I worked with a lot of guys from the northeast coast of England, from Hartlepool and Middlesbrough and all of that. And I'd never met these kind of guys before. I was only 19 when I started working on drilling rigs, and so I got paired up with this team from Middlesbrough and Hartlepool, and all really roughy tufty guys, tattoos, missing teeth, noses over here, and they thought my surname was incredibly funny, because so if there's anyone listening from the northeast of England, they will know that there's a term Doylem, which is someone who makes a lot of mistakes and is a bit unfortunate in life, is a Doylem, which is shortened to a Doyle. So if you are a Doyle in Hartlepool or Middlesbrough, you're an idiot. And they love this.
Eric, it's not just Hartlepool and Middlesbrough.
Anyway, enough about me.
No, but it's worth saying, because you've got young daughters, haven't you, Lenwood?
Yes, I do.
So the reason he wants a Doyle is that he'll put it on the wall and he'll say to his kids, look, if you don't work hard and get your exams, this is what you'll end up doing.
Exactly. Exactly.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, without a doubt. If you don't stick in at school, this is what will happen to you. So thanks for that, guys. Have a great session. I'll catch you later.
No, it's great stuff, Eric. Great stuff.
Hey, I've learned a lot more today than I have in our previous live. So that's all good. See, look at Lenwood left.
Lenwood's left.
That's it.
So he thinks it's over.
He's gone. He's off to buy one.
He's left
Max
to save
overload
up
of
one of
value.
your artworks, Eric. That's what
He's on to Etsy already.
He thinks it's over. It is now.
It is now. Right. Someone bring some semblance of order to this debacle.
So what are we going to talk about?
Well, we could talk about Facebook.
Ooh.
Yeah.
You mean Meta?
Meta.
Well, there we go. It's
they're just trying to be ABC, Google ABC 2.0.
They're just trying to, it's just like Alphabet.
Is it that, or is it a diversionary tactic? There's been a number of
conspiracy theorists.
Yeah, but there've been a number of whistleblowers, haven't there, that have come out of Facebook over the last month and said Facebook is very aware of the effect that some of their products have on young people, particularly young women, and the mental health issues and anguish that it can cause. and this has been supported by research that Facebook have done. Metaverse. It's been supported by stuff that Facebook has done in terms of research, which has subsequently been buried. So this has been a good time for them to do something which has been largely a positive comment. And I don't know about you guys, but I think I'm fairly well clued up on Facebook. But when you see what they do, I mean, in terms of the product portfolio and where
I had no idea until you drew our attention to that website. I had no idea they owned Oculus, for instance. I had no idea.
Oh, yeah.
I knew that they did own that, but they've got this like a Zoom type tablet thing in various different forms that you can buy. And obviously the tie-up with Ray-Ban, with the content creator glasses, with the microphone, and it's all of this stuff that it's almost as if they've been waiting
Google
for an opportunity to burst this onto the market so that they can say to everybody, look over here at this, like a magician, misdirecting people.
Is it misdirect? So if you just go by the headlines, and of course we can't believe everything we read in the paper, the headline on the website, connection is evolving and so are we. The metaverse is the next evolution of social connection. Our company's vision is to help bring the metaverse to life. So we're changing our name to reflect our commitment to the future. They couldn't do that with Facebook alone. But this overarching holding company that's going to be into all types. So here's my thing. I know everyone doesn't, not everyone's going to agree, but I think I'm not a huge Zuckerberg fan. I like it when there's for some reason there's loads on TikTok today working on the conspiracy that he is actually a synth and he's not human. And some of them are really funny on TikTok today, really funny. But I think every organization, if there's any truth behind this, should be given the ability to change direction and maybe apologize for behavior in the past and move forward. I don't know enough about it, to be quite honest, to give a really balanced view.
Have they apologized though? That's the point.
Probably not.
Not at all.
Probably not, and probably never will. But I think everyone should be given the chance to evolve and change direction.
And I think there's a far bigger thing going on in terms of we were going to talk about this before, and I wrote 6 things down, and I didn't mention any of them. And I think there's far bigger things way above our pay grades going on in the world, which there's an artificial intelligence war going on between China and America, and Russia and the UK, and we're losing it because we don't have the right. If you look at the way I'm doing a presentation on social media in China coming up in 2 or 3 weeks' time. And, the way that the Chinese go about it is very different. But in China, there's no privacy at all. Because if you they've actually structured and the way that they've built their social media is based around a credit card rather than based around advertising. And so what you're seeing is that there's these what's happened is that the life has moved into digital. And then what we have are basically these competing factions going on. And so there's things going on way above our pay grade against, what's going on in Facebook and WeChat and stuff like that.
Yeah, but I think at the end of the day, what it's really coming down to, at least in the immediate future with respect to Meta, is virtual reality and the introduction and the spread of 5G and the ability to actually have enough bandwidth to support a virtual reality world. And that's really what Metaverse is all about. And that is going to have an incredible impact on social media. And that's worth discussing.
Yeah. And the way that I see things going is that you're going to be able to have, I've got as you guys know, I run a podcast. We're going to have an episode of that on the 15th of November in the metaverse. I'm not going to be in the metaverse because I haven't got the goggles and stuff, but the person I'm interviewing is going to be in the metaverse. So this person has bought land in the metaverse. They've built art galleries they have 2 art galleries in the metaverse, and they've bought NFTs, which they've basically put in the art galleries. And what we're going to do is I'm going to talk to him about the metaverse, what it is, and the opportunity for people. Remember, this is still quite early days.
Is it though? I mean, people were buying property and putting NFT type materials into Second Life 10 years ago.
Absolutely. In Second Life, it kind of seems to be no different from Second Life in terms of the way that it's built and structured.
But there's that extra degree of textural realism to it now, because
so you should be, so you know, when everyone said, hey everybody, you can now have video on LinkedIn, and you can now have video calls on LinkedIn, what had been developed, what I was excited about, was the fact that someone could actually connect to you on LinkedIn, and you could have a meeting with them in their office in Melbourne, in Australia, from London. So what the metaverse does, it makes Zoom redundant. Because what we'll be able to do is better put our goggles on and actually walk into the office or walk into the home, if people will allow that.
It may make Zoom
that
redundant. Will it make travel redundant as well?
I mean, because of the COVID situation and the adoption of the big working from home experiment, and the fact now that people are far more happy about sitting from home and actually doing work than they were probably 2 years ago. Yes, I think it will do. And you can put on a pair of goggles and start having meetings with people across the other side of the world. And 5G, Eric, as you mentioned, it allows us, the bandwidth allows us to do that. Yeah, and that's sorry, I find that exciting.
Yeah, me too.
Very exciting, very exciting. It's also extremely interesting when you look at the biggest social media platforms and where China, because we don't get the visibility that to see what they're doing with it, but falling down that rabbit hole of social media in China and what's actually happening within social structures and social media in China is incredible, right? Absolutely incredible.
So you've been able to book. You've been able to have Uber. There was Uber functionality. So Uber is a copy of WeChat. I know that everybody puts it up and says, "Isn't this amazing innovation?" It was in WeChat 5 years before Uber started it. You could book a taxi in WeChat 5 years before Uber started. It's now like, I mean, the Chinese were like, "Duh, why couldn't we do that?" and the thing, and the whole of WeChat is, in effect, as you'll probably, there's a walled garden. It is the whole of the internet within that. So I've done a podcast with a guy who used to work at Reuters, and the Reuters WeChat website gets more hits than the Reuters website in China, because it's so advanced. That's, if you want to approach a website, you approach it through WeChat, and the way, and some of you are going to cringe at this because of the way that the privacy has changed. In China, there is no privacy. Yeah, so there is AI in WeChat that will actually, if you meet certain friends every Friday, it will actually, if you do it twice, what it will do is the AI will actually say, "Do you want to meet with your friends, and shall we book the table at the same place you want to go to?" Yeah. Now I would find that really useful. A lot of people would be screaming privacy. I don't want that. But the issue is that if we are going to advance as a society and be the most technically advanced society and retain our position in the world as being the number one innovationary set of countries, that's the position that we need to have. We don't have it.
Nowhere near it.
So
nowhere near it.
We're nowhere near it. And it depends on, it doesn't really matter who's innovating more or who's innovating faster, because there's certain things where people make announcements and you go, well, why would you do that? That's just put you back 2 years, and et cetera, et cetera. So it's but there is such a difference between the two social networks that we have, and we have people screaming about privacy, and we have other people that are overtaking us in their ability to innovate because we're so behind in the way that the social networks are set up. And all I'm doing is I'm putting together a different position than what you're hearing about privacy. As far as I'm concerned, Facebook, I would like Facebook and Google to know more about me, because they can actually then take the heavy listing. I don't want to think about certain things. There's certain shit on my desk that I would like to remove into Facebook and Google. And it doesn't allow me to do that because the privacy for me is too tight. I would like it far more looser, and I would prefer to give them things to do, and I can't do that. That's an alternative view for you guys and the way that people think.
I'll say. I'm not sure I would be on the same page with all.
No,
with
I'm not saying, I'm not asking for you to agree. What I'm doing is I'm putting forward my view of,
what's interesting
of the world, my understanding of social media, and the way that I want to run my life. I would love. I've argued before. I would love it if I used to put reviews of films into Google, because I actually hoped at one point it would say, you need to watch this film because you've reviewed all these other films. And I stopped doing it because of the fact they didn't do it. I still have to go through the painful process of reading reviews in the paper to see what, or listening to my friends to say, what should I go and see Dune or not? But what an algorithm should do is actually give me the ability to actually say, do you know that there's films coming out? I think based on the other films that you've watched, you should watch it. But I can't, because of the privacy settings here in the Western world don't allow that to happen.
So there are some brilliant. We won't put any links in the chat, but there are. If you've never done it before, looking into social media in China and what's going on, and some of the things that as Tim says, because there is no privacy, because it is wide open. So there's the dichotomy unfolding in front of us. The opportunity in dichotomy, right? So we are tightly bound. They're not in terms of privacy, but look what they've got. Pinduoduo springs to mind. Pinduoduo is one of the most interesting. I did an article about this about a year and a half ago. I was so taken aback by what they were doing. In just 3 years, Pinduoduo became so successful that they were able to initiate their own public offering on the NASDAQ. From a standing start to 3 years to IPO on NASDAQ, an incredibly successful organization, based on the fact that they gather lots of data about you for shopping. This is about e-shopping. So Adam looks at this, and he's got a network of followers on Pinduoduo. Adam buys this, and before he buys it, it says, listen, if you recommend this to 6 of your friends and 6 of them buy it, we'll give you a discount. We'll give you a massive discount. So it's group shopping and discount by group shopping, but it's gathering data on what we all like and what we don't like, gathering stacks so that when Adam wakes up in the morning, there's a whole stuff on Pinduoduo that he's probably going to want to buy. And
of course, it's all guitars.
All guitars, and that specialist stuff that you buy from that specialist shop, which we won't talk about. I mean, plectrums.
Of course.
Plectrums, plectri. And that whole thing. So it's like Amazon and every other different shopping channel all squished into one, gathering billions and billions and billions of little slices of data and offering up you massive life discounts if you can influence your followership to make purchases on your behalf. So they get discounts and you get discounts, and it's all growing and building. The sellers are winning because they're selling lots of stuff, and you're winning because you're saving money on the stuff that you want to buy. But it's sucking so much data and so much information. But it's exactly what Tim says. They wake up in the morning and it's basically all presented. Here's your day presented for you.
So tell you a story.
Tell us a story.
My partner and I, we went to the Google Glass launch in London, and it was suggested that we leave. So we put these Julie and I we put these Google glasses on, and we looked at each other and went, they're shit, aren't they? And we went, yeah. We looked at it and went, they're shit. And I mean, the computer in them, and as you can imagine, the computer is so small. I mean, it's like a Sinclair's PC or something like that.
Like a PC.
It's smaller than that. It's smaller than a PC. So we put these Google glasses on, and it's like, and what you can do is you can upload these apps, and the apps were like, because even then the iPhone, it was probably the 5 or 4 or 5 or something. It was, you could do something like there was the night sky. There's an app you can get with the iPhone. When it tells you what the stars are where
my girls love it.
Yep. Yeah. And so we put these. So they said, and here's the one with the stars on. So we're going like this. And Julie said to me, "Can you see Uranus?"
I used to love, but I've lost a bit of flexibility.
If I stretch a little, maybe.
I'm not keeping up with the
I couldn't stop laughing because everyone else was being really, oh wow, these are really good. And she goes to me, "Can you see Uranus?" And I couldn't stop laughing. Anyway, we decided to have some photos. There's actually one up there somewhere of us wearing Google glasses, and then I thought we decided to leave.
I thought you were asked to leave because you didn't arrive on a skateboard and you actually had a belt on your jeans.
Oh gosh.
You were messing up the average age of the event.
Opportunity, the business opportunity for metaverse and for some sort of goggles or glasses and having super Zoom meetings on steroids isn't just massive.
Mm. But bringing it home maybe. If you can't get somebody to write content on LinkedIn, how big a jump is it to get them to jump with business on virtual reality? Do you think?
There's a point. There's a point right there.
So at the end of the day, all the technology that's coming and that we're talking about, and that it's very powerful and has major implications. What does it do for B2B today, and how can B2B stay on top of all that? And what do we as a group and a team recommend them to stay on top of in light of that with respect to what they want to do with their businesses?
Yeah, that's a great point, Thomas. And I just want to say one thing quickly, which is that as far out as the metaverse is, there's no way to make that big leap. You've got to, even these incremental changes are big changes, but you really do need to make the move, right, to just being social. How about we try being social with what we have today?
Do you? So when you go to so why don't you go to an exhibition? Because you've got to travel there, which takes you an hour and a half. You've got to park, which costs you $50. You walk around the exhibition, 9/10 of which is utter garbage that you have no interest in. When you find the thing that you do want to view, why don't you go on the stand? You know why you don't go on the stand, because the sales exactly. They're like vultures. They're on you with their claws, and they won't let you go. So now with the metaverse, you can go. There's no travel time. You can go to the event. You can go to just the stands you want. There are no salespeople there. You can walk around and look at the presentations if you're interested, and then you can leave when you're ready. Actually, that's pretty.
You know what? My wife's. Do you guys know what my wife's favorite thing is about Maui, Hawaii?
Oh, the beautiful beach.
Besides me,
you with her on the beach.
Yeah, no, it's
the smell of cigar smoke.
It's the smell when we get off the airplane, because their planes land and you walk outside, and it's the smell of Hawaii when we get off the plane.
Yeah. But
what does it smell of?
Freedom and relaxation.
Yeah, nature.
So that's fine.
You get a pina colada handed to you. You get a flower lei thrown over your.
I thought that was Florida.
Head. Oh no, Florida! They give you a 40-ounce cheap beer and punch you in the face.
So what's the lovely smell that assails your nostrils when you get out of the subway at Madison Square Garden to go to an event? It's not the urine. Same smell. It's not the same smell as Hawaii, that's for certain.
It's the hot dog.
Methamphetamine.
Oh my goodness!
Sorry, carry on.
I've put a name. I've put a company in the chat.
And they're
doing like meta. I've got an interview with the CEO of that. They do like metaverse conferences.
So my point is, and I think you're absolutely right, Thomas. You know, the challenge is getting people to be social. But how do you get people to use to create content for LinkedIn, and how does that translate into what happens in the metaverse? I think the interesting thing is that people are going to need guides, aren't they? You know, like all of these things, you know, our raison d'etre is to guide people on how to use what is effectively a 15-plus-year-old piece of technology. And you would think that by now, what you need to do to be effective in the modern world on social networks is pretty obvious, really. You've got to be yourself. You've got to be active. You've got to build a big network of people that actually want to listen to you when you speak. It's not rocket science, any of this stuff, and yet people don't get it. And now people are going to segue seamlessly from, like Tim said, you know, from we're going to have a messaging exchange in LinkedIn Messenger, and then all of a sudden it's going to be, actually, do you want to meet quickly? I've got 10 minutes now, and then we're going to be in the same room. Maybe it will be the metaverse beach on Hawaii. Should we meet in Hawaii? Yeah, why not?
But, with a scratch and sniff card.
Here's a little
Hawaii.
But what people
that.
don't want is to make a mistake, isn't it? You know, what they want is to have somebody that will handhold them through that process, so they go, actually, this is not so scary after all. And this creates a whole world of opportunities for everybody, doesn't it?
Have you seen any metaverse gurus on LinkedIn yet? There's a joke. Sorry.
A joke. No, it's okay. It's okay. I think we're missing a point here. I think we're missing a point. I think we're talking about how we in the metaverse. Here we go.
Right.
Here we go. I don't think the metaverse is for us at all. So as it stands right now, back in the old days with sales, it was all about how many people can we get out conversing with other people, right? And progression and marketing failing and sales becoming more difficult and all of that, cold calling falling away, emailing falling away, advertising becoming despised is an evolution, right? So now we know that social helps companies improve their position, but we're still limited by how many people that we can get interfacing with people. When we are putting bots into social, the humans don't like it. But bot to bot is a different story, a completely different story. So bot to human isn't liked. We don't like that. We all repel, you know, when, oh, that's a bloody bot talking to me and trying to have a relationship with me. But bot to bot, I think many, many years down the line, I don't think this is next year, it might be 10 years from now, that companies will have virtual reality, AI, not sales teams, but the whole presence will be virtual reality, robot to robot, not people at all. Not people at all. The whole thing will be done. The next evolution is going to be electronic to electronic. There you go.
It will be, but it'll be avatar to avatar.
Will be the new strategy.
Avatar to avatar. There you go.
Yeah. Where I thought you were going with that, Eric, is actually the generational differences. That really, it's the leaders in the younger people in organizations, millennials and Gen Z. They're ready for social. They're ready to do it. They're the ones that are calling for what? Can we stop dialing the phone or whatever?
They don't even know they're doing it.
But you know, and so where I thought you were going with that is that the metaverse is actually for a generation yet unborn, right? And the reason why I say that is because I actually read some statistics which I saved but didn't know I would need today about how Facebook as an application is trending much older, and the younger people they're not on Facebook, they're on some other. So, you know, in my mind, you know, I'm thinking Zuckerberg is thinking, listen, this Facebook thing has got a limited shelf life because I can't get Gen X, or not Gen X, Gen Z on Facebook. So I got to start thinking about, you know, the people who are yet unborn and how I'm going to get those people, you know. So anyway, that's where I thought you were going with it. And I think there's some truth to that what's holding social back and businesses from really evolving is the leadership is so antiquated in their thinking. Maybe I'm wrong, but anyway.
I firmly believe that we will eventually become the weak link. The saggy bags of bones and jelly and all of that will become the weak link, and it will become the position where, as Thomas rightly pointed out, avatar to avatar, but the avatar doesn't need to see another avatar to see whether it's going to build a relationship with it. It'll all be just done silently and electronically. The matrix will come to life.
Well, you're talking about a Terminator kind of reality where people are extraneous to the business that goes on between
the Borg.
Yeah, but you know what? As interesting as all that is, I just want to get more sales next month.
So what do you do? Do you beat the machine with the bot in to make more calls?
No, the machine has to make a sale and then ring the bell, doesn't it?
Yeah. And his arm comes out and rings the bell.
Let me back in, Hal. I can't do that, Dave. I can't do that.
You've not made
because you haven't made your quota yet.
You haven't made enough calls. Let me in from the cold. I'm freezing, Hal.
I hear in our
made
future.
Enough calls, Dave.
I hear sometime in our future. I hear in our future. You are the weakest link. Goodbye.
Yes, exactly. Is it okay to slightly jump off on a tangent?
Yeah.
Or maybe take it back to home base, because I know Thomas is itching to. He's fed up with this conversation.
Thomas was scratching. Conversation.
I read a lovely little article in Marketing Profs a couple of days ago by Melissa Sargent, CEO of Litmus. And although we've spoken about it before, it was nice to see it sort of repackaged and sort of reframed a little bit. But you know, Litmus big into digital marketing and all of that. And Melissa's article was all about the fact that you know, it's a nice perspective, and I thought there was something in it. It was 3 reasons why B2B marketers really need to take the leads from their B2C counterparts and really need to tune into what they're doing. And she gave us three main headlines under the banner of even though B2C and B2B sell differently and have different product sets, B2B brands can still implement B2B marketing strategies to increase their return on investment. Homing in on things like personalization. Her 3 things were increased personalization, right? We've known that for a long time. She talks about buyers now expecting personal connections in the way that the B2C world was expecting personal connections all the time, and that level of customer service and relationship. She's absolutely homing in on the fact that buyers now in the B2B world are expecting that personal relationship and also that brand experience. She also talked about multiplying digital touch points, which I thought was pretty cool, which B2C are quite good at. You know, we sometimes come across B2B people. I was working with a drinks manufacturer recently, and when we were listening to their B2C element, they've got a big B2B part. Their B2C element is all over. They spoke about their Instagram strategy, their Facebook strategy, their TikTok strategy, Snapchat. It's everywhere. It's everywhere. What do you do in B2C? Oh, I put some stuff in LinkedIn.
B2B.
Yeah, B2B, yeah, B2B. So they've got this massive B2C, you know, their Instagram team and their Facebook team. What do you do on B2B world? Yeah, we've got, you know, Sarah over there. She sticks some stuff up on LinkedIn on a Thursday. Right, okay, wow. Okay, so, and then the last bit was relevant content. So really homing in on the fact that B2B brands don't have the mindset yet to understand that their content is defining them, and it's leaving that breadcrumb trail about who they are and what they are, because they haven't honed in on the personalization and also the digital touch points. So I thought it was a nice little article. It's by Melissa Sargent. It's in Marketing Profs. 3 things B2B marketers can learn from B2C marketing strategies. And I thought it was a nice overarching little piece.
Who wrote that, Eric?
Melissa Sargent, the CEO of Litmus.
Okay. Thank you.
And it brings up a really good point, and that is that the leadership of B2C and the retail worlds are far ahead in many ways with respect to leadership in B2B, whether it be manufacturing, whether it be distribution, whether it be technology, any of those groups, far away ahead. Oh, man, and that's the difference. And you put that right on the button, Eric, and until they get with it, the rest won't happen.
Big time.
Yeah, it's a good point, and I think that I mean, we've always seen leadership as being have struggled understanding what social is. Certainly in the B2C world here in Europe, they're far more ahead in terms of adoption. I mean, if you think about people's TikTok strategy, it's actually taken a long time for people to come up with one, but they still do have one. The same with Clubhouse. Do you remember that? or Twitter Spaces, it's taken a little while for people to come up with something. You always have to have people innovating, but B2C.
So why is that? Why is it that B2B is so far behind in terms of adopting new ideas and going to new places to meet their prospects and customers?
You're just setting them up, aren't you? You're just setting them up. It's just.
I appreciate that, but this is the conversation that we need to be having.
Absolutely is
to help company to come alongside them and help them. And we could just start listing things off, right? Corporate culture, get your shit done, and every 30 days hit your mark. There's no room in there to test or to try or break away from the existing playbook,
or to get it wrong.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
There's no room for failure.
Yeah, exactly. And instead of listing them all off, I don't know, maybe we should list them off for people that are listening, because
there was a very good LinkedIn Live webinar on this yesterday with a small group of people.
I saw something about that. It was very popular, wasn't it?
It was very, very good. It just speaks directly to this very subject.
List them off, Brandon, because there may be people listening that don't understand, the differences. A lot of people, as you know, who've worked in B2B for if you're in leadership in B2B, you've been in B2B for 20 years, probably.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Senior leadership, SVP type level. You probably have never worked in B2C. So don't necessarily see the difference. And a lot of people will say that B2B, and this is a sweeping generalization. A lot of people think that B2B is boring. I actually think it's, stuff like this is actually really interesting.
It's electric.
But thank you. But a lot of people actually see it as being boring, and therefore they don't do stuff. I just saw this coming from Jamie. It's hard because we grow with failure, but there's no room.
Interesting. Yeah.
I know I've worked in organizations where you really had to push out to say, we're going to do something and it may fail. And you kind of we're having to kind of support it like Hercules. And then because there was a massive blame culture, things went wrong. Who are we going to blame? I'll put my finger up. Who are we going to blame?
Well, and if you're looking for a job, you looked for entrepreneurial. That was well, at least when I was entering the work world, I looked for organizations that said they were entrepreneurial, because that was their way of saying, we're willing to take a few more risks than some traditional organizations.
Or it was just a word they used, most likely.
Yeah, well, I think that's the thing, isn't it? Ken Robinson said that there's no opportunity to be creative in what you do if you're not prepared to be wrong. He said, the caveat to that is that he's not saying that being wrong and being creative are the same thing, but, we have big challenges that need to be overcome, and the only way that we can overcome them is by acknowledging that we're going to go down some dead ends and some and be prepared to move quickly and break things. I think it's the Facebook.
Hey, I haven't paid attention. Go ahead, Tim.
So I was actually going to talk about you. You said something yesterday on the webinar that we ran that Adam's kindly put the link in the chat, which is that I mentioned about people not being afraid about getting outside help.
Right.
And you told a story about when you moved from California to where you are now, you rented a house. Right. You didn't buy a house because actually you didn't know where you wanted to live.
Yeah.
You thought, it's kind of here, so we're going to live here, and then we'll drive out and we'll kind of find the best places, and then we'll find somewhere to live.
Yeah, I think if I was a B2B sales leader or C-suite right now, I would look at any of the six of us on here and say, what would it take to rent them for a year in my business to completely digitally around social transform the way we communicate with all the people that we need to communicate and influence, whether it's in your sales, it's your HR, it's your marketing, it's even using social as a communication tool for your for your internal team. Look at something like that, like rent people. But here's the other thing I was going to say, and thank you for that, Tim, is, and I think I said this yesterday, in the kind of entrepreneurial expert space, which you guys know I've been an entrepreneur and I've got all the bruises to show it. There's a culture of failure is good, because it means you're trying, you're pushing, you're innovating, you're trying to learn new ways of doing things. And there is a concept of fail fast, but there is a big acceptance of failure because the value it brings. And it's just not at all accepted in corporate America. There's just a complete different shift. But this is the reason why small, nimble startups are actually kicking ass right now over the big players that should be doing this. And it really just comes down to that. And, I had in one of my companies where we got to a size that this was important, was I had a team internally that we called the innovators, and they had a budget and they had a vision to go try new stuff. And then we had the rest of the team was the maintainers, and they maintained everything that we were doing. But there was a marriage at some point when something was proven in a little microcosm over here, and it worked well, and we could see a vision for it. Then we moved it in to the rest of the business, and it helped us grow. We grew wide and we grew deep with our customers because we do that. And I heard rumblings 5 years ago about companies creating these entrepreneurial hubs within their large corporations. And I heard rumblings, and I got excited because I'm like, man, those guys got a lot. I mean, they've got big budgets. They have existing clients ready to go. I mean, what an amazing startup world. And for somebody like me, I was drooling at the thought of doing this, and was even considering going, I'd go work for one of these big companies if I had that type of environment. And I just don't hear about it anymore. Like it just,
what happens?
You
know what happens? Because I've worked for organizations where there's a famous bank. There's one of the banks here that has a constant flow of things. And what happens is that the bank said, we've created a separate team. They're going to be entrepreneurial, and they're the bank of the future, right? So everybody else in the bank looks at them and go, you're the competition. We're going to do everything to kill you. Mm-hmm. And so everything that they come up with, the rest of the bank basically stops and kills.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then what happens is that they know that the persons that they recruit somebody every 18 months. I get contacted. Would you be interested in running? No, I'm not, because it will be 18 months and you'll be looking for someone to replace me. Every 18 months, the person has it because it just doesn't work. And that's one of the real issues that corporate organizations have with change, and especially the change if by creating separate organizations as a way of helping to get that.
Yeah, and I think Jamie spoke to it as well, and I would just add to that, current organizational structures, especially B2B, have not changed in, 60, 70 years. And they need to be slightly adjusted to better suit today's reality. And I don't mean this in a negative, but all these tiers and levels, they got to go. It doesn't work. It's not feeding the organism what it needs in reference to everything that we're talking about today.
What else hasn't changed in 70 years? Nothing. Everything else is transformed out of all recognition, hasn't it?
Yeah. And that hasn't, and that in large part is the reason. Is part of the reason. I'm sorry, Tim. Go ahead.
I just said faxes. I was just picking off some things that have changed.
Technology that's kind of changed. Yeah. But the idea that Brandon's talking about at the entrepreneurial level, at the venture capital level, at the people that are really making things happen, these are small groups of people. They are not in large organizations. They are not restrained. They are not afraid of failing because they know they have to fail. And that's a whole different thinking that needs to come into the corporate world. But you can't do that, as Tim so rightly put, in the existing structure, because the existing structure will kill you. It's that simple. right?
Well,
So
you know what you touched on there, Thomas, that I think we need to highlight, and you're spot on, is the venture capital model actually is foundational on exactly what you just said. They invest in 10 companies knowing 9 of them are going to fail, but one of them is going to knock it out of the park, and it's going to, 20x or whatever it may be their money and make up for the 9 failures. They accept failure as part of their foundational strategy.
Exactly. Yeah. And companies need to take on that thinking, but also leverage technology that they're not comfortable with, that they're not familiar with, in ways that allow them to do that and to move forward. And some things are going to work and some things aren't, right? That's just the nature of the beast. But you have to get just as involved in that technology and that shift as you expect your people to, right? You have to walk the walk. You can't just talk the talk. And that's the difference. Those are the companies that you see win, or when their leadership actually gets right in there, rolls up their sleeves, levels the playing field, and works with the team to do it. Those are the ones that win.
Is there any other things that people can share about what they're seeing in customers at the moment around what's working in terms of transformation and the things and the learnings that we could share with the audience in terms of what's working and what's not working?
Well, I mean, I talk about it all the time, and we're talking about it now. It's really focusing on your people, focusing on and less on the technology. And I think that's very well documented now that organizations that are primarily focused on the technology are not doing as well as.
You mean just buying a tool and
just buying a tool, and the tool is going to solve the problem.
A fool with a tool and all that.
It's still a fool, right? So what we're starting to see now is, especially in the big consulting firms are starting to talk about this a lot more. It's a people first digital transformation, focusing on changing behaviors in the people so that the culture of the organization fits with where the organization wants to go. So there are certain organizational behaviors, certain personal behaviors, leadership behaviors, which Thomas is talking about, that support innovation. And that's come out of research, a lot of research done by some folks from Deloitte and Harvard on the innovative companies, even the very large innovative companies, Google, Amazon, they attempt at least to maintain certain organizational and personal structure leadership behaviors so that they can win. One, which I was surprised to find out as I've been researching and working in this area now for 5 years, is coaching. The amount of coaching going on in startups was a big surprise to me. I came out of.
Why was it a surprise?
Because I just didn't know. There's not a lot of coaching, at least in my experience, in professional services. I saw almost no coaching.
Wait, but you said professional services versus startups. I mean,
right. That's
I'm a startup guy.
You asked me why was there a surprise, and so I'm saying is I came out of professional services.
Right, there you go.
Moved into corporate America, working for a $2 billion organization that did not focus on talent development or coaching at all. Yeah. And then I go and I find out that the leadership teams of Google, Facebook, Intuit, they all had a coach.
Yeah, and what's really interesting is that so Tim and I came from a big corporate, and any coaching took the form of mentoring, where it would be completely ad hoc. It would be like, okay, I'm going to help you because I'm a woman and you're a woman, or I come from this country and you come from the, it's been so very much like I will take you under my wing and coach you. But increasingly, as we talk to other organizations that are in that kind of space, maybe a large tech company with 30, 40, $50 billion a year turnover, and we get to know senior people, all of the coaching and mentoring is stuff which is done as a favor. There's no formal structure. There's no encouragement given.
There's no training on how to do it well.
No. So it's like, I really like you, Brandon. Can you help me? And you go, yeah, I don't mind mentoring you on an ongoing basis. And it's really interesting that organizations that rely so heavily on talent often put so little into developing that talent.
Yeah, it's really remarkable. But there's a great book. It's called $1 Trillion Coach.
Oh yeah, I read that.
Yeah, great. That's a great book, right? And it talks about this coach that came out of, I forget his name now. He came out of college sports.
Yep.
Okay, and he coached the teams at eBay, Google,
Steve Jobs.
Facebook. Yeah, same guy. That's worth taking note.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah. Good book.
Really good book. I would say I value the most in my career the fact that I chose not to do an MBA, but I did a master's in organizational development with an emphasis around coaching and organizational culture, primarily because even back then when I was young and dumber, I knew that the answer was always going to be the people. And I still believe that culture will eat strategy for lunch.
Well, it's interesting when you look at professional sports, when you have to work as a team to be successful. There is a coach. There is a professional coach that works with that team. Okay, so it would be, we would think very strange if an NFL team said, we're not going to have a coach. We're just going to let the players go out there and figure it out.
Yeah,
right. That would seem like crazy. So now we see, and that's what was so refreshing, exciting to read this book, $1 Trillion Coach, and find out that these, what's her name? Sheryl Sandberg and Zuckerberg, they had a coach to help their senior leadership work as a team to resolve problems, to that's, I don't know. I haven't seen that in corporate America. So to find out that these very successful organizations, these startups, and I think in, like you said, Brandon, in startup culture, there is a lot more coaching, in part because collaborating as a team is one of those organizational behaviors that supports innovation that you really don't see in corporate America.
And it's also out of necessity, right? Because you don't have all of the perks and bells and whistles that you can offer that enterprise organizations can. And so small innovative companies also look for innovative ways to serve their people and create culture, which is, hey, you may not have the end of the year trips here, there, or wherever yet, but what we're going to do is we're going to pour into you. We're going to coach you. You're going to have a mentor, or not a mentor. You're going to have a coach, not somebody and somebody who's trained and all of those things. They actually, and we're experiencing this now. I think, Tim, the link that you shared in our Slack group about the company that chose a 4-day work week in order to attract new employees, and how many new resumes they had in the first day.
10 new CVs in 23 hours.
Yeah.
Right. People are caring more about their work environment. They care more about work-life balance and all these other things. And that's what startups have known for a while, is that if we take care of people, we're going to attract good talent.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. Higher performance, because startups place more emphasis on one of the most abused words in modern commercial society, which is team. We stick a bunch of people on a floor and we go, hey, you guys are a team now. Go solve some problems and start delivering. And the fundamental fissure and crack in that methodology of saying, you guys are now a team. Go for it, without thinking about, we've only got a couple of minutes left. We could devote 4 hours to the discussion about what team dynamics are and how they affect and make or break and all of that. And the startups put more emphasis on, they need that team to be high performing, and not simply saying, well, they're in a storm informing, norm performing kind of cycle. That's so it's ridiculous, right? It's ridiculous.
But when we're coming back to what we talk about on, all the time, is when you're saying that you want to pull down silos in organizations and get the functions working together, that cross-functional collaboration, that's teamwork. That's getting marketing and sales and the product team working together to identify new markets, to sell and to develop new products. I mean, that's the holy grail. If you can get your organization, your senior leadership working together in that way, we talk about it all the time with social selling. Yeah. You get that senior leadership working together, social across the organization, you're going to see your outcomes change.
Tim, could you put up Jamie's last quote there?
Yeah.
So I love that, but it works on a broken principle. It works on the principle that we're already good.
Well,
it works on the principle that we're already good.
The other thing about the book Good to Great is none of the companies exist anymore.
Right. But the fact is, getting to good and is part of being a team. Is that failing and practicing, and maybe it's a horrible thing to say, maybe replacing some of the members for the benefit of the greater good and getting that team all functioning, firing to become good, and then we can focus on being great and world class and fantastic and world leaders and all of that. Let's get good first.
Yeah, well, here's what I love about Good to Great as a book right now. It served me really, really well in the 90s and early 2000s. And to Tim's point, that era has come and gone, and exemplified by those companies have come and gone, right? That era is gone. What we did in that era to be successful has come and gone.
Yeah.
And just bringing this full circle, what we talked about is what should marketers do in 2022 and beyond and the rest of the 20s? Well, you can't look backwards. You can't look at that and hold on with an iron fist.
Do your thing, Brandon.
Yep. I mean, that's my job. I really believe, and I tell people all the time, this is my job between your sales, your marketing, and your leadership. And that's it. Because you're so focused here that you're missing all these opportunities that are just off to your peripheral.
And on the subject of books, there is that great book, What Got You Here Won't Get You There.
Yeah. Right.
And I think that the basic premise of that is a really interesting one. That just because the methodology and the behaviors have got you to where you currently are, that doesn't mean they're necessarily well suited to get you where you want to be next.
So maybe there's some credit to Zuck for saying, hey, we need to go way out. We're going to rebrand the company and look that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
We come full circle.
There you go.
And I know we're supposed to wrap up, but I have a lot of grace for Mark and what he's done, because he did what he had to do to try and get there. And a lot of corporations do that with all the pressure and everything. And yeah, maybe there is a little bit of a pick up the head and go, how do we fix what we made mistakes?
Isn't it funny that at the beginning of this hour, it was Zuckerberg this and Zuckerberg that, and now all of a sudden it's Mark and Zuck.
Like Z-Meister.
Yeah. Well, he messages me every day to remind me all my friends' birthdays that are happening that day. So I feel very connected to him.
So nice
of him. He's a good lad.
All right. Hello, Brandon. It is Mark.
And that's not even a recording. That's him.
No, exactly. That's him live. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Great job. Have a great weekend,
everyone.
Job,
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. All the comments.
Thank you. Have a great weekend.
Okay.